Hello, you're watching Afghan News with Mohsen Jamal. An Afghan border policeman shot dead 2 foreign soldiers from the NATO-led coalition on Monday. The nation said the deputy governor of Northern Faryab province, where the shooting took place. The International Security Assistance Force said it was investigating the deaths of 2 soldiers who were killed inside a base. And in Helmand province, at least 1 Afghan civilian was killed in a suicide attack on Monday afternoon. Officials said the incident happened at 11 a.m. local time while a suicide bomber blew himself up near the gate of Helmand Court, and another suicide bomber was wounded and arrested by Afghan police. Zamar Bashari, a spokesman for Ministry of Interior Affairs, has confirmed responsibility for the attack. Afghan officials say protests have erupted for a 4th day of demonstrations against the burning of a Quran in the United States. Authorities say hundreds of stone-throwing protesters scuffled with police Monday in Mehtarlam, the provincial capital of the eastern Laghman province. No casualties have been reported so far. Officials say at least 19 people have died and 100 others wounded in the country since Friday when demonstrations began. On Sunday, General David Petraeus, the commander of the U.S.-led international forces, condemned the burning and offered condolences to the families of those killed and wounded. U.S. President Barack Obama had earlier condemned the burning of the Muslim holy book. The top NATO civilian representative in Afghanistan, Mark Sidwell, also reiterated that the burning of the Quran was an act of disrespect to the Muslim faith, saying the act does not in any way represent the views of the nations and their citizens in the international alliance. President Hamid Karzai, who last week drew public attention to the burning at a meeting with U.S. Ambassador Carl Lakenberry and General David Petraeus, called on the U.S. Congress to join in the condemnation and prevent a repeat incident. The protests follow the March 20th burning of a Quran by the head of a small fundamentalist church in the state of Florida. A suicide bomber has struck a bus station in northwest Pakistan, killing up to 6 people in the 6th bomb attack in Pakistan in as many days. Police say the bomb exploded in the small town of Jandul on Monday in the district of Lower Deer, 200 kilometers from the capital Islamabad. Pakistani troops fought a major offensive to expunge the Taliban from the area nearly 2 years ago. Islam Khan, a police official, said that 6 people have died while the Lower Deer administration office said at least 5 people were killed and 7 injured in the town, which is close to Pakistan's semi-autonomous tribal belt on the Afghan border that Washington has dubbed a global headquarters of Al-Qaeda. It happens as on Sunday 2 suicide bombers killed 50 people, unleashing carnage at a Sufi shrine in the central province of Punjab, where hundreds had gathered for a religious ceremony. Pro-democracy forces have fought with troops loyal to Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi for the 3rd straight day in and around the key oil town of Brega as foreign air strikes continue to rain down on the government soldiers. Hundreds of rebels retreated east of Brega as Zintan and Misrata under artillery fire earlier on Sunday before regrouping and firing back with their own rockets, while some rebels suggested that better trained fighters were still battling Gaddafi's soldiers inside. Elsewhere, Abdel Ati Al-Obaidi, a Libyan deputy foreign minister, left the country bound for Greece, bearing a message to the Greek government from Gaddafi. Also on Sunday, the British Foreign Office confirmed that a delegation led by Christopher Prentice, the British ambassador to Rome, had arrived in Benghazi and would hold talks with the opposition's Transition National Council. Although this weekend marked a deadline for U.S. forces to begin their anticipated withdrawal from the battlefield on Sunday, the Pentagon said that the United States had agreed to NATO's request for a 48-hour extension of American participation in the coalition airstrikes. Despite the expected withdrawal from the air, some accounts describe a growing U.S. presence on the ground in the east, which is largely free from the regime's control. Media reports have said that American and British clandestine intelligence officers are meeting and training rebel fighters. A leading ally of the internationally recognized president of Cote d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara, has said the time is ripe for a rapid offensive in the commercial capital Abidjan, where pro-Ouattara fighters are battling forces loyal to the country's incumbent president, Laurent Gbagbo. Ouattara's forces have effectively concerned Gbagbo and his closest supporters after 4 days of fierce fighting. But Gbagbo shows no signs of wavering, scoring a coup as his army Chief of Staff General Philippe Mango seemed set to rejoin his side after seeking refuge in the South African ambassador's residence earlier this week. Meanwhile, a first group of foreigners fleeing chaos was evacuated on Sunday as the French army took over the airport in Abidjan, racked by the fighting in Paris, sent 300 more troops to the city as France is mulling a possible evacuation of its 12,000 citizens living in the city. The latest fighting follows an alleged massacre of hundreds of people in the small town of Doyoko in the west. The United Nations mission in Ivory Coast said on Saturday that traditional hunters known as Dozos had joined Ouattara's forces in killing 330 people in Doyoko. Yemeni security forces have shot dead at least 10 anti-government demonstrators and wounded 30 in the city of Taz, south of the capital, Sana'a. Medics said the violence began when thousands of protesters marched through Taz toward Freedom Square, where demonstrators have been camped out. Troops on nearby rooftops opened fire with live ammunition on the crowd in their mortars. They returned to besiege the governor's headquarters, said Bushral Maktara, an opposition activist in Taiz, and other witnesses. The opposition has been holding continual protest camps in many squares of cities around this country, and on Monday new demonstrations in solidarity with the Taiz protests erupted in several places. According to sources, there are reports that regime loyalists in civilian clothes have also fired on people in Huideda, west of Sana'a. The protest came 2 days after an opposition coalition called on Yemeni President Ali Abdullah Saleh to hand over power to his deputy Abdul Rabbu Mansour Hadi, who was appointed by Saleh as Yemen's vice president after the civil war in 1994. The six-member Gulf Cooperation Council Sunday denounced Iranian interference in its regional affairs, according to a statement distributed after a foreign ministers' meeting in Riyadh, the Saudi capital. The statement rejected Iran's continuing interference in the internal affairs of the six members of the Gulf Cooperation Council after Iran criticized Saudi Arabia for sending troops to Bahrain, which faces protests by majority Shiites against the island state's Sunni ruling family. The GCC meeting came after Tehran warned Riyadh that it was playing with fire by deploying troops in neighboring Shiite majority Bahrain, while Kuwait claimed it had broken an Iranian spy ring. Meanwhile, Iran's communications minister Raza Taqavi has announced that Iran's national internet services will replace international one in 6 months. And Japan's government has asked the operator of the stricken Fukushima nuclear plant to consider wrapping a giant sheet around the facility to contain further radioactive leaks. The proposal calls for building framed structures around the 45-meter high reactor buildings and then wrapping them with the sheeting, which will take up to 2 months and cost about $950 million, the sources said. An immediate concern is a radioactive leak into the Pacific Ocean through a cracked concrete pit, which has continued despite efforts to stem the flow in a pipe upstream with a polymer capable of absorbing 50 times its own volume in water. Engineers of Tokyo Electric Power Company, the operator of the plant, mixed sawdust and newspapers with polymers and cement to try to seal the crack. Since the quake struck more than 3 weeks ago, throwing Japan into its worst post-war calamity, fears have mounted over the impact on the world's third largest economy, and a survey Monday suggested the hurt could be massive. And that is all for now. Thanks for joining us.